All right, guys. So since we're kind of in the dead part of the offseason when it comes to football, right between rookie minicamp and OTAs, which actually start next week, I thought it'd be a cool idea to try to predict the upcoming season stats for every rookie in this last draft class, whether that's how many snaps they get at a certain position, what a potential PFF grade may look like at the end of the season, or the stats themselves. So that's exactly what I'm going to do in today's video. We're going to try and predict the stats for all the rookies in the Green Bay Packers 2024 draft class. So next year I can have this video and we can go back and look how either wrong I was or if I was close on some or right on some. I think it's a very interesting thing to do because then, we don't really know with some of these rookies what year one is going to look like. So I'm going to try to do my best at predicting it. Also, if you do happen to be a new viewer to this channel, you'll find everything Green Bay Packers on this channel. So if you want to stay in the loop with the Packers through the entire offseason, I'll be posting OTA highlights, OTA updates, everything else that happens through the offseason in terms of roster moves. And then, of course, going into training camp, I highly suggest going down and clicking that subscribe button. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. And of course, we're going to start with Jordan Morgan, their first overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft at pick 25. Pick that made a lot of sense for the Green Bay Packers due to his versatility, due to his experience at Arizona at left tackle. Eventually, down the line, could be a starting left tackle for the Green Bay Packers, but I think still year one, Jordan Morgan plays a lot of snaps. Now, will it be 100% of the snaps where week one he's a starter and he doesn't have any injuries throughout the entire year and he plays over 1,000 snaps? It could happen, but I think it's more likely that he plays a little bit less than the full amount of snaps due to maybe week one or two, they don't have him in there and he's still getting ready, or if he's hurt for a couple games, right? So my stat prediction for Jordan Morgan is 800 snaps played in 2024, which would still be awesome for a rookie, so long he's playing well, to get that many snaps in his first year. And I think the Packers believe in Jordan Morgan in his first year. I don't think he's a player that they drafted and said, hey, we need to wait a couple of years, let him continue to grow, then he can start to play. I think Jordan Morgan can play year one, and I think it's going to be at either right guard or left tackle, depending on how they shape this offensive line and get the best five out there. That we keep saying, get the best five out there, right? If you keep Rasheed Walker at left tackle, I think Jordan Morgan's instant plug-in is at right guard. That's where the hole is on that offensive line is right now. Zach Tom, if you keep him at right tackle, again, the hole is in at right guard. If you keep Josh Myers at center, same thing. So the only difference would be, say, if you move Zach Tom into center, take Josh Myers out of the equation, Rasheed Walker either stays at left or flips to the right, and Jordan Morgan plays at either the left or the right. Then you still have a hole at right guard there. That could be between Sean Ryan, Josh Myers, and Jacob Monk, or even Andre Dillard. There's a lot of different players that could fight for that spot, but I think if it comes down to it, Jordan Morgan will start at right guard at some point this season and will tally around 800 snaps played in his first season. Now, I have him marked as 4 sacks allowed. I think that would be a good season. If you play 800 snaps between left tackle and right guard and you allow 4 sacks and also have 30 pressures, I think that's a good rookie season. I think that's something great to build off of moving forward, especially if he's doing this playing 2 different positions. And then I have him as a 71.9 overall PFF grade. So that takes into effect pass blocking and run blocking. I'm very intrigued to see the first year outlook of Jordan Morgan and how soon are we going to see him in this starting lineup. Right now, and yes, he hasn't played a single NFL snap, but based off the tape, based off of what we saw at college, I think he is one of the best 5 Packers offensive linemen right now. And we keep hearing that, put your best 5 out there. And I think that includes Jordan Morgan. So that's why I predict him to get 800 snaps in his rookie season. Next, we have Edan Cooper, their first of 2 second-round draft selections at pick 45, linebacker out of Texas A&M. And he's going to be plugged right in as an instant starter, in my opinion. So I kind of tallied up his stats based on him starting the whole season. I think he's going to be starting next to Quay Walker, and they're going to be playing a lot of nickel. And I think if they're playing nickel, the 2 linebackers are going to be Quay Walker and Edan Cooper over Quay Walker and, say, Isaiah McDuffie. Now, if they're in base, yeah, sure, we're going to see more Isaiah McDuffie, but Edan Cooper, I think, is going to be that nickel backer with Quay Walker, the two linebackers back there when they're in that nickel package, and he's going to get a lot of snaps this season. So as for his stat prediction, I have him tallied up to 55 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. Now, I kind of, when I was doing these stat predictions, kind of looked at last year's stats from certain players on the Packers offense and defense and saw how many tackles they made, how many tackles for loss they made based on how many snaps they played. And I try to make that comparison. Okay, I could see Edan Cooper playing that many snaps. I know the type of player he is. I think he could end up with, like, say, 55 tackles, 7 for loss. I have 18 pressures and 3 sacks. I think the Packers are going to use him to rush the passer a lot. I think more so than Quay Walker. I think they're going to use both, whether that's A-gap pressure or even around the edge in certain packages. I think both of these guys are so versatile and you can use them in so many different ways. That's why I loved the thought of Edan Cooper being drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and I think he will end up with 3 sacks. Like, that's not an overstatement. I really do think 18 pressures, 3 sacks. I think this guy can get after the passer. I think he's going to be, a bullet or a train coming through that A-gap in certain times, and he's going to get home to the quarterback. And I also have 1 interception. I think Edan Cooper is more than capable to cover up some tight ends or running backs, and he might fill some zones and be in a passing lane and end up with an interception. If he doesn't get an interception, I could see that as well, but I do mark him down as 1. I could see him getting an interception this season. So those are his stats: 55 tackles, 7 for loss, 18 pressures, 3 sacks, and 1 interception. Then we have Javon Bullard, their second round pick at pick 58, safety / nickel corner from Georgia. Another player. The first 3 are starters in my opinion. So their stats are going to be as follows, right? They're going to be starter-esque stats. They play a lot of snaps, so they can, their stats can definitely, show for that. Javon Bullard, I have 38 tackles. Now, he is a good tackler, but he's more of a coverage type of safety, right? He's not going to be up in the box or flying downhill a ton to stop the run. I think that's what Xavier McKinney's going to do. Not saying that's not going to be Javon Bullard, so I still have him marked at 38 tackles. I think he's going to be starting at safety next to Xavier McKinney, but he's going to be more of that coverage guy, right? When you're in a 2-deep look, you maybe are in cover 2, or you're in man-to-man, you need Javon Bullard up over a slot wide receiver. He's going to be able to cover him up. So 38 tackles, also have 2 interceptions. I think Javon Bullard could come away with 2 passes this season. We see rookie safeties in the past, like Darnell Savage with more interceptions in his rookie year. So Javon Bullard can definitely do it. And I also have 6 pass breakups. I think he does a good job, getting his hand in there when the ball is coming his way and at least breaking up the pass. Maybe not getting a ton of interceptions, but I also have 6 pass breakups. And I think his overall PFF grade at the end of the season would be a 72.4. And I'd be very happy with all of this. I think this would be a very nice building block for his rookie season. And then moving forward, maybe he makes the move to nickel to replace Keyshawn Nixon, or because of his good season at safety, they just keep him back there and maybe try to figure out something else at nickel. But I'm really excited for Javon Bullard in this defense and what he's going to bring in this defense next to Xavier McKinney. Just all the pieces they added. I'm so excited for the safety room. Then in the 3rd round, they went Marshon Lloyd with their first of 2 picks in the 3rd round at pick 88, running back from USC. And this is a very interesting one because I'm still kind of torn on who I'm giving the second running back snaps to. It might be a split between him and A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon supposedly working really hard this offseason and coming out with a vengeance to potentially earn this running back 2 spot from Marshon Lloyd. But I still think Marshon Lloyd has the more upside. Of course, they drafted him in the 3rd round. I know they drafted Dillon in the 2nd, but that was years ago. Marshon Lloyd kind of replicates what we lost from Aaron Jones better than A.J. Dillon, so I think he might end up with more of the snaps, but it could go the complete opposite way, and A.J. Dillon is running back 2 in the season, and it's kind of like a redshirt year almost for Marshon Lloyd, but I don't think that's the case at the end of the day, so I have him a prediction of 460 yards rushing, 120 yards receiving, 3 total touchdowns, and a 76.2 PFF grade. I added receiving here because I think he will be utilized in the receiving game if he does get snaps. I think it's an underrated part of his game. He's really good at screens, which the Packers need, right? Their screen game has been pretty bad the past couple of seasons, so they need to get that back flowing, and it starts with the offensive line as well. But Marshon Lloyd, I think, does get some snaps. Shout out Wilmington, Delaware. I'm still hyped the Packers drafted him, so very hyped the Packers drafted Marshon Lloyd, and I'm excited to see how his career progresses in the green and gold. But I think year one as a rookie, 460 rushing, 120 receiving, 3 touchdowns, and a 76.2 PFF grade. Then in the third round, they went the first shocker pick, Tyron Hopper, linebacker from Missouri, at pick 91. And this is kind of the first point where I don't see a ton of snaps on the starting defense for this draft pick. Where Marshon Lloyd, like a running back too, could see some snaps, right? I don't see a ton for Tyron Hopper year one. I think Isaiah McDuffie's kind of that third linebacker year one. Maybe even Eric Wilson gets snaps over someone like Tyron Hopper. But I think he's going to be a solid special team player year one. Maybe turns into one of those guys where you're just he continues to make plays on special teams, like an Eric Wilson, like a year one Rudy Ford, where you're just seeing this guy fly down the field and make tackles consistently. So I have him listed as 18 tackles, and that would be, maybe a couple on defense, but a good handful on special teams. That would still be phenomenal for a special teams player to have around that many tackles. If he had 12 tackles on special teams, that's still phenomenal. I have 135 defensive snaps. I think he'll see some. It'll be very limited. It'll be maybe an injury or two happens one week. Tyron Hopper has to be a rotational linebacker that week. I don't think it's going to be later in the year he ends up starting. I just don't see that outlook for Tyron Hopper year one. I see it in the future. I could see him being a very solid, Mike linebacker. I think their outlook might be, Hopper, Quay, and Edan Cooper in a rotation there for the future. So I think that is the future outlook. But year one, for talking just his rookie season, I have him as 135 defensive snaps, but 265 special team snaps, and that's why I predicted his special team PFF grade of a 74.3. Before we dive into the next player, I wanted to remind you guys I'm still giving away this signed Packers away Christian Watson jersey. Thank you to Sleeper, who is sponsoring today's video. And right now on Sleeper, with the link down in the description and using code BAS, that's BAS at Sleeper, you can get a first-time deposit match up to $500. So that means if you were to deposit $200 with code BASS on Sleeper, you'd then have $400 to play with. The NBA playoffs are still ongoing, so definitely go down, check out Sleeper to make your picks. Sleeper is a daily fantasy sports app where you can choose between 2 to 8 players from any sport, pick higher or lower on a particular stat. For example, in NBA, you can choose points, rebounds, assists, even double-doubles. And like I said, you just choose higher or lower and make your picks, and you can win up to 100x payouts. Sleeper is a very clean and easy to use app. I highly suggest going down in the description and checking out Sleeper, and signing up and making a first-time deposit will enter you in this signed Christian Watson Packers jersey here that I'm giving away at the end of May. So if you haven't signed up on Sleeper and made a first-time deposit, definitely go and do so using code BASS to be entered in this giveaway. All right, now back to the video, and next on this list, we have their 4th round selection where they traded up to pick 111 to select Evan Williams, safety from Oregon. Now, he's another player similarly to Tyron Hopper. I think year one doesn't get a ton of defensive snaps. I think he gets more defensive snaps than Hopper. I think he will have to fill in here and there, whether that's an injury or someone not playing as well and they need to put Evan Williams in, and he can do a plethora of different things. He can play deep. He can play in the box. He could even play nickel, so he has versatility. But I think year one, he's mainly going to be a depth guy and a special teamer. And I think the Packers, with the Hopper pick and the Williams pick, are trying to really get this special teams down, which is very important, right? Having a solid special teams unit is very important in the NFL. So year one, I think he does project more as a special teamer than a defender. So I have him as 28 total tackles. Now, this includes his defensive snaps and his special team snaps. So I have 280 defensive snaps, which higher than Hopper. Like I said, I think he could fill in here and there. When I was looking at the snap counts for the safeties last season, I mean, Anthony Johnson Jr. had a decent bit. We had so many different safeties, and all those snaps have to be replaced. So I think he still will get some. I have 247 special team snaps. I think Evan Williams will be a very, very good special teamer. And I also have a 68.1 PFF special teams grade. Then in the 5th round, the Packers traded up yet again to select Jacob Monk, offensive lineman from Duke. Now, Jacob Monk, man, I have high expectations for him in the future. It might not happen year one. I still see him getting some snaps year one, like at a certain position due to injury, due to poor play. Like, he probably will see some snaps year one. I really do think so. So I have him marked down as 260 offensive snaps, and that could be at either center or right guard. I think he could be the future center for the Green Bay Packers once Josh Myers inevitably departs from the green and gold. That's if the Packers don't end up moving Zach Tom there. I think Jacob Monk is the future center. So I have 1 sack allowed in those 260 snaps. He has a ton of experience from Duke at pretty much all positions, but mainly center and guard. I have 5 pressures allowed and a 66.7 PFF grade. So a 60.0 is an average grade, so I have him above average. Again, it's only 260 snaps, so not a crazy sample size, but I'd be very happy with 1 sack allowed and 5 pressures in those snaps. And then you'd be looking at forward to 2025 going, hey, this guy could be a starter at either center or right guard. And at that point, you probably have Jordan Morgan at left tackle, or if he's still at right guard, then hey, Jacob Monk is your starting center for the 2025 season. I have very high hopes for him. He's another Green Bay Packers lineman that they drafted in the 5th round that I think will turn into something great. Next on this list is my favorite draft pick from the Green Bay Packers in 2024, and that is, of course, Katan Olapo, safety from Oregon State. They picked at pick 169, the exact pick I mocked him to the Green Bay Packers. Still so happy and ecstatic that the Packers did indeed draft Katan Olapo. He's one of my favorite prospects coming out of this draft. So, of course, I'm going to give him a good stat prediction because I believe this guy is going to be a great safety at the NFL level, and I still think he contributes a decent bit year 1 as a rookie. So I have him playing a total of 576 defensive snaps. This was kind of similar to what Anthony Johnson Jr. got last year, so it's really not far-fetched at all. Anthony Johnson Jr., a 7th round pick last year, got around 500 snaps. So in all honesty, Katan could get even more than 576 snaps. But this is what I have him as: 576 and 52 tackles. I have his tackles so high because I think he projects as a box safety for the Green Bay Packers. You know, if they're in a dime look or even a nickel look and they want to throw a box safety down there, I think it's going to be Katan Olapo to help against the run. He's bigger bodied, he's fast, he can come down and make a hit, no problem, and he can wrap up and tackle. So I have 52 total tackles. I also have 2 sacks. You know, watching his tape, he actually had a sack on Caleb Williams. A lot of these guys that the Packers drafted did actually. They can use him coming around the edge in some blitz packages. I think Jeff Hafley will love the thought of Katan Olapo coming downhill and getting after the quarterback. So I actually have 2 sacks for Olapo. I do have an interception. Not that he's going to be playing a lot of deep safety, which he still could, but even in the box, you know, if he's covering up a tight end, I think he could get his hands on a tight end, thrown at him, and he could come up with the ball. I think Katan Olapo is also a ball hawk. You know, when you look at his stats over at Oregon State the last couple of seasons, I mean, this guy just does everything. Box safety, deep safety, in the slot, against the run, in coverage. He literally does it all. And then I have his PFF grade, which I would be ecstatic, a 76.1 overall PFF grade for the first season. If that's the case, man, Katan Olapo had a wonderful rookie season, which I do project him to have. So that's why I predict these heightened stats. Many people may think he might not get many snaps year 1 because he's a 5th round pick, but I do. I project him as a great safety in the NFL, so that's why I have these stats. So now we're in the 6th round, and this is where it gets less of a stat prediction, more of a just prediction year 1 or an outlook year 1, and that starts with Travis Glover in the 6th round, pick 202, tackle from Georgia State. Now, Travis Glover is someone that I don't see getting any snaps year 1. That's not saying he won't become a good swing tackle or a depth swing tackle for the Green Bay Packers in the future. I just think it's going to take a little bit. I think he's going to either be a practice squad guy year 1 or inactive, like carried on the 53 because they don't want another team to sign him, and he's inactive. He's not part of the 46 players on game day to suit up. I think that's going to be his outlook all season, unless there's like an insane amount of injuries at tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Knock on wood, because no one wants that. I don't think Travis Glover plays at all year 1. Now, I still am intrigued by him. You know, a ton of experience. So if he, for some reason, had to play, you know, he has that experience. He probably could in a pinch, but I just don't see it year 1. So I have 0 offensive snaps. I have him as a practice squad player or an inactive player week in, week out. Then in the 7th round, they had 2 picks, and first they went Michael Pratt, quarterback from Tulane, and this one should be pretty obvious. I don't want Michael Pratt to play any snaps because I want Jordan Love on the field the entire season. We want Jordan Love to be healthy the entire season, and even if he wasn't, even if a small injury happened, Sean Clifford is quarterback 2 right now. It is his job to lose. So from Michael Pratt, I have 0 offensive snaps, which is what we want. and I have him as the third quarterback. Some people would argue that he'll take the second quarterback spot from Sean Clifford. I am excited for that camp battle and to see how that shapes out. He very well could, but even if he's the second quarterback, I still want 0 offensive snaps. Okay, how about this? Maybe a couple offensive snaps when we're up 45-3 against the Bears and he has to come and kneel the ball in the fourth quarter. Then Michael Pratt maybe could get some offensive snaps. I honestly should have added about 3, so for the kneel downs against the Bears, but not the case. 0 offensive snaps, third quarterback. That's my year 1 projection for Michael Pratt. Then to wrap things up, we have Kalin King, who they selected in the 7th round, pick 255. So this is an interesting one because, you know, Carrington Valentine was a 7th round pick last year and ended up starting. So this is a hard one to predict because also he has a ton of talent and he probably shouldn't have been there in the 7th round. And I think his projection is at nickel corner in the NFL. So say if Keyshawn Nixon is playing terribly or gets hurt and they want to keep Javon Bullard back at safety, Kalin King may be next in line at nickel corner. So under a different circumstance, like he may see a lot of snaps this year. Do I see that exactly happening? No, I don't. I do really, really like Kalin King, and I think he could potentially be a future starting nickel corner for this defense. But year 1, I still have him kind of as a growing year, a rookie season. Not redshirt, but, you know, not a crazy amount of snaps. 180 defensive snaps. That could be for injury. That could be for poor play, whatever it may be. You know, the Packers were riddled with injury at cornerback last year, so it was no shock to see guys like Corey Ballantyne getting a ton of snaps. So that very well could happen again. I mean, we still have Eric Stokes on the roster who knows if he gets healthy, right? Then I have him listed at 7 tackles. I think he could be, like I said, a solid nickel, so come down, make some tackles, 2 pass breakups, and a 67.8 coverage grade. So, like, again, this is a very hard one to predict because it could go, like, completely 2 different ways. He could see 0 snaps this year, or it can end up being the starting nickel by like week 7 due to injury or poor play. It very well could happen because the upside is there for Kalin King. The potential is there for Kalin King, and I'm very happy the Packers were able to snag him with their final pick at 255. So those are all my stat predictions for the Green Bay Packers rookies in 2024. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree with some of these stat predictions? Do you disagree? And if you do, let me know your stat predictions for some of the players you like in this draft class in the comments below. But I appreciate you guys coming by to the video. If you could, please leave a like down below. It supports the channel a ton. Again, a reminder, the OTA is starting next week. You'll find all that OTA content on this channel, so go down, hit that subscribe button. But I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.